Hey y'all, Michelle Raza here with Finding Yourself SATX Life Coaching, where since 2017 we've guided our clients to success by helping them set their personal vision statements and then their goals, and most importantly, holding them accountable to these goals in weekly coaching sessions. Check out more at my website. It's at www.findingyourselfsatx.com. Thanks. Today we're going to talk about Melody Beattie's Codependent No More. We've been going chapter by chapter, and so last week we talked about removing the victim. We are going to actually spend a little bit more time on this chapter and talk about it again today. If you like these videos, if they provide you some guidance, please do like and subscribe. It really does help us little YouTubers, and it doesn't cost you a dime. I appreciate that. Okay, so removing the victim. So we talked about basically rescuing, caretaking, and enabling behaviors. And I do just want to reiterate something that Gibson said here on page, I'm so used to Lindsay Gibson. This is Melody Beattie, Codependent No More by Melody Beattie. I think I spent like a year on Lindsay Gibson, so it's like stuck in my mind. But so she says here on page 85, I'm not referring to acts of love, kindness, compassion, and true helping. Situations where our assistance is legitimately wanted and needed, and we want to give that assistance. These acts are the good stuff of life. Rescuing and caretaking isn't. Caretaking looks like a much friendlier act than it actually is. It requires incompetency on the part of the person being taken care of. We rescue victims, people who we believe are not capable of being responsible for themselves. The victims actually are capable of taking care of themselves, even though we and they don't admit it. Usually, our victims are just hanging around that corner of the triangle, waiting for us to make our move and jump on the triangle with them. So we talked last time about the, I need to find it, the triangle of persecuting, so the attacker, so that's the one persecuting, the victim, and then I need to find the other one. So give me a second, let me go grab Gibson's book. Okay, so this is the Karpman drama triangle. So you have the persecutor, aggressor, or villain, the rescuer, hero, or caretaker, and then the victim or the innocent person. And so what Beattie is saying is that we basically run from one side of the triangle to the other. We caretake, and then we persecute, and then we feel victimized. So she's talking about the triangle, right? And then we move to the bottom where we feel like we're the victims. We head right for our favorite spot, the victim corner on the bottom. This is the predictable and unavoidable result of a rescue. Feelings of helplessness, hurt, sorrow, shame, and self-pity abound. We have been used, again. We have gone unappreciated, again. We try so hard to help people, to be good to them. We moan, why? Why does this always happen to me? Another person has trampled on us, socked it to us. We wonder, shall we forever be victims? Probably, if we don't stop rescuing and caretaking. Many codependents at some time in their lives were true victims of someone's abuse, neglect, abandonment, alcoholism, or any number of situations that can victimize people. We were, at some time, truly helpless to protect ourselves or solve our problems. Something came our way, something we didn't ask for, and it hurt us terribly. This is sad, truly sad. But an even sadder fact is that many of us codependents began to see ourselves as victims. Our painful history repeats itself. as caretakers, we allow people to victimize us, and we participate in our victimization by perpetually rescuing people. Rescuing or caretaking is not an act of love. The drama triangle is a hate triangle. It fosters and maintains self-hate, and it hinders our feelings for other people. Let me illustrate a rescue. A friend of mine was married to an alcoholic. Whenever he got drunk, she would drive all over town, enlist the aids of friends, and relentlessly pursue her husband until she found him. She usually felt benevolent, concerned, and sorry for him, a warning that a rescue was about to take place, until she got him home and tucked into bed, taking responsibility for him and his sobriety. When his head hit the pillow, things changed. She charged into the persecutor position. She didn't want this man in her home. She expected him to whine for days about how sick he was. He was unable to assume his responsibilities in the family, and he generally acted pitiful. He had done this so many times. So she would start in on him, beginning with little snipes and working up to a full-blown blast. He would briefly tolerate her persecution before switching from a helpless victim to a vengeful persecutor. She then took a downward dip into the victim role. Self-pity, feelings of helplessness, shame, and despair set in. This was the story of her life, she would moan. After all she had done for him, how could he treat her this way? Why did this always happen to her? She felt like a victim of circumstance, a victim of her husband's outrageous behavior, a victim of life. It never occurred to her that she was also a victim of herself and her own behavior. As codependents, we spend much of our time rescuing. We try to be living proof that people can outgive God. I can usually spot a codependent within the first 5 minutes of meeting and talking. He or she will either offer me unrequested help, or the person will keep talking to me, although he or she is obviously uncomfortable and wants to discontinue the conversation. The person begins the relationship by taking responsibility for me and not taking responsibility for him or herself. So there's more in the chapter. Basically, it's worth it. It's worth grabbing it and reading it. But essentially the point is that whenever you take responsibility for something that is not yours to take responsibility for, you're going to end up feeling resentful about it. And Gottman talks about this too, right? His concept of pushing things under the rug until the rug bunches. And so anytime you're in that type of situation, sorry, Earl's being a pain, 1 second. So basically, anytime you find yourself in that situation where you're giving, but you're giving because you feel like the other person can't or won't, when in reality they can and should, you're going to end up resentful. And so as the codependent person, you're taking responsibility for someone when they should be taking responsibility for themselves. And she does differentiate that it's different from a true dependent situation, right? It's different than helping someone who really needs your help and who asked you. The classic definition of the codependent is someone who is taking responsibility for another person. Sorry, he's on my lap here. Here he is. Here he is, my little one-eyed cat. Taking responsibility for someone who's chemically dependent. And so they're choosing, right, to check out of life, check out from their responsibilities. They're choosing not to be a partner with you in life if they're your partner, and basically being selfish and choosing that. And it may be for good reason. It may be that they're running away from trauma. It may have 1,000,001 explanations. But when you go into the role of rescuer and caretaker, it breeds resentment and it breeds conflict. And ultimately, you're going to end up feeling used and abused and the victim. You keep trying to rescue and help everybody else, Nobody's coming to your rescue or helping you. So at the end of the day, what you need to do is look within yourself and make sure that when you're helping someone, it's because you truly want to help them, and also that you've taken care of your basic needs first. You can't help someone, you can't serve from an empty cup. I think that's a pretty common saying, right? So you need to make sure that your needs are taken care of, that you're in a good place, and that you really want to help this person. And think about whether it's going to bring resentment to you or not. Because if it is, maybe you shouldn't do it, right? You need to take some time, like Gibson told us, and assess how you feel after your interactions. If you're being taken advantage of, your body is going to tell you. Your body and your mind are going to tell you you're going to feel terrible after the interactions. And maybe you're so hungry for some love or attention that you're willing to put yourself in that situation. But just take a minute and think about how you feel after you're done and whether it was really worth it for you. And you're the only one who can determine whether it is or not. So we'll close out her chapter with an exercise. So last time we talked about the activity 1, which is on a sheet of paper detailing all the things you consider your responsibilities. Today we're going to talk about the Gottman drama triangle. Become familiar with the Gottman drama triangle and how you go through the process in your life. When you find yourself rescuing, watch for the role and mood shifts. When you catch yourself feeling resentful or used, figure out how you rescued. Practice non-rescuing behaviors. Say no when you want to say no. Do things you want to do. Refuse to guess what people want and need. Instead, insist that others ask you directly for what they need and want from you. Begin asking directly for what you want and need. Refuse to assume other people's responsibilities. When you initially stop taking care of people who are used to having you take care of them, they may become angry or frustrated. You've changed the system, rocked the boat. It means more work for them, and they can't use you anymore. Explain to them what you're doing and allow them to be responsible for their feelings. They may thank you for it later. They may even surprise you. Sometimes the people we thought least able to take care of themselves can when we stop taking care of them. So this stuff is pretty hard. If you're used to being, the stone, the rock that people rely on, and then all of a sudden letting them become responsible for themselves, it is really difficult. And I would say this even extends, so if we extrapolate this to Gibson stuff, this even extends to not necessarily caring for someone physically or doing something but even just the role of always being the one to reach out, right? If you're always the one trying to keep and maintain and establish a relationship and it's really one-sided and not reciprocated, kind of like we talked a lot about with Gibson's works, maybe stop reaching out. Let them do some of the emotional work in the relationship too, whether that be, a romantic partner, a friend, a sibling, a parent, whatever it is. Let them take some responsibility in the relationship and see how that feels. You'd be surprised. So thanks for spending time with me today. Please do check out my website if you get a chance. It's at www.findingyourselfsatx.com. There you can find for purchase all of the personal vision statements at $20 each. So if you just want to go ahead and do those on your own, you don't have to book a coaching session. You can also book your first free consult. So even if you've bought all of our digital products, but we've never talked, you can book your first free consult and I'll make some time to talk with you. And then, of course, there's coaching sessions on the site. So thanks for hanging out with me. Please do like and subscribe. It's full-blown summer here in San Antonio, even though we're still technically in spring, so it's hot. I have the AC running. And then because Earl has separation anxiety, I have to leave the door cracked, so you probably hear like a wind tunnel in here right now. But thanks for being here with me today, and I look forward to talking with you next week. Take care, y'all.